Faith's Gifts. It was only a few days after Faith's birthday that the Great War came to an end, and an armistice was signed by Germany. There were great rejoicings in the village. The church bells rang out all day, flags were erected, the school had a holiday, and there was a bonfire and fireworks at night. The little girls were very excited, and walked about the village all day talking to everybody. Nobody could keep indoors. They were all shaking each other's hands, and talking about the wicked Kaiser. A great many wives were rejoicing that their husbands would soon be returning to them. Faith was only allowed out for a few hours in the middle of the day, but it was wonderful how many came up and shook hands with her, and said how glad they were to see her about again. "I rather wish I had tumbled out of the tree instead of you," said Hope that afternoon, when they were having tea. "It makes you so important to be ill, and I like being important." "But it makes you feel so tired," said Faith, plaintively. "I don't feel as if I could run at all, not even from a mad bull." Hope looked at her reflectively. "I shouldn't like that," she said. Then, with a sudden change of subject, she went on. "Do you know, Faith, what you could do with your money? It's a lovely idea. And Charlie and I thought of it." "What?" "I keep thinking of so many things. I have made a long list already. Why, you could buy a beautiful gypsy van, and we could go about the country in it. A caravan. Wouldn't it be lovely? Then we should have to buy a horse, too, a big one, and Aunt Alice would say she couldn't keep him or feed him." "Oh, Topsy would pull it, or you could buy a horse and feed him. You have enough money to do anything." Faith gave a little sigh. She began to feel the responsibility of money weigh heavily on her shoulders. And the very fact of her still being weak and frail made the least thing a burden to her. That night when she went to bed, Granny came up with her. She and Faith had a little prayer together of thanks for the peace which had come to the world. And then Faith, lying back on her pillows, said wistfully, "Granny, I wish Mr. Cardwell had left me 5 shillings instead of £100. I don't really know how to spend it." "Yes, I wish he had," said Granny, looking at Faith's white cheeks with great pity, "but, my darling, he would not like to think that it would be a burden to you. You see," Faith went on, "Charity and Hope expect me to do something very big with it, and so does Charlie, and it is the big things that are so difficult." "Now look here," said Granny, cheerfully. "Christmas will soon be here. I know you don't want to spend it all on yourself. Take some of it and buy presents for your friends. Not big presents, just buy nice gifts for them, then put the rest of the money in the bank, and by and by you may think of a nice way to spend it. There is no hurry, you can spend it gradually. There is no need for getting rid of it at once." "Oh, Granny, thank you so much. If I can do that, I shall be very glad. And do you think I could buy Timothy a very warm, thick overcoat? He gets so cold when he goes out at night to see any sick sheep." "I think that would be a lovely idea." Granny kissed her, and left her quite happy. The next morning, she told Charity and Hope of Granny's advice, and though they were at first rather disappointed, they were soon most interested in the list of presents that Faith began to write down. These were some of them. Timothy, a very thick overcoat. Granny, a big fur cloak. Aunt Alice, a muffin boa. Miss Vale, a very nice writing case. Mrs. Horn, a warm bed quilt. Mrs. Vale, a pair of gold spectacles. Charlie, a bicycle. Mrs. Cox, a big shawl. Mrs. Budd, who kept the village shop, a china tea set. Sir George, a pocketbook. Lady Melville, a purse. There were various children and old women in the village whom the little girls knew. Faith said she would like to give Christmas cakes to them all. And then came the serious question of what Charity and Hope would like. Charity said they would like to choose themselves. "If you don't think it will cost too much money," she said, "I would like a glass bookcase, because I'm collecting a library, and by the time I grow up, I shall have a splendid lot of books. And it would stand at one end of our schoolroom. There would just be room for it." "Oh, what fun it will be buying," said Faith, clapping her hands. "Of course you can have the bookcase. And now, Hope?" Hope walked round the room considering. "Of course I would really like a big dog," she said, "but Aunt Alice wouldn't hear of that." "Why, Faith, I know what we want. That is a proper saddle for Topsy. If you could give me that, we could all ride him." "But that wouldn't be for you then," Faith objected. "I can give myself that. It can be got for us all, besides the Christmas presents." And then Hope thought she would like a complete set of garden tools. So Faith put that down. When once her list of Christmas presents was finished, she felt happier. And daily she became stronger, until very soon she was able to take part in lessons again, and in the walks that her sisters took every day. Time sped away. Aunt Alice wrote to the pirate about the check, and promptly received another back in place of it. December came, a bright, cold December, and they had their first fall of snow. It was too cold to play in the orchard, and they were content to run along briskly out of doors. At last, a fortnight before Christmas, Aunt Alice said they could all come shopping with her. They were to go to the town early in the morning, have their lunch in a shop, and stay till quite late in the afternoon. It was a day to be remembered. Never had they so much money to spend. For Charity and Hope felt that they shared with Faith the excitement of choosing and buying all the presents. Aunt Alice was very good in helping them. It was only her own present that was kept secret. And she was as pleased as Faith herself when they chose together a lovely grey cloth cloak lined with white fur, for dear Granny. Charity got her bookcase, and Hope her garden tools. The saddle was chosen and paid for, and then Faith was asked what she was going to get for herself. She could not make up her mind for a long time. At last she saw a picture in a shop which greatly took her fancy. It was a little child being led up a steep hill by a shining angel. Her aunt smiled when she was told she would like to buy it. "I might have known something of that sort would have attracted you," she said. Perhaps the most interesting bit of shopping was ordering the cakes and the pastry cooks. Faith found that she wanted 15, and they had to be made on purpose for her. Aunt Alice laughed at the woman's astonished face when she took the order. "It's a good thing you have some currants and raisins at last," she said, "for otherwise it would be no good ordering plum cakes from you." The little girls asked their aunt to let them go into one shop by themselves, and Aunt Alice turned her head again, and pretended she did not see where they went. Faith was very anxious over the set of furs they asked to see. At first the attendant who waited upon them looked rather suspiciously at them. "These are very expensive," she said. "How much do you want to give?" Charity looked up with red cheeks. "We have £100 to spend, we don't care how much it is." The attendant smiled. She consulted the head of the fur department. But when she saw that Faith had a little bag stuffed with notes, she became very civil. And the children at last chose a big black fox stolen muff, which cost about £16. Faith was rather frightened at the amount, but she paid it, and she went out of the shop wondering if Aunt Alice would be angry if she knew how fast her money was melting away. It was quite late when all the shopping was finished, and the children were very tired when they reached home. Granny asked how they had enjoyed themselves. "It has been just like a fairy story," said Charity, "and I suppose rich people can spend money like Faith has today whenever they like. Oh, I do hope I shall be rich one day." Granny shook her head at her. "I wish you better than that," she said. "Money is a great care." "It is indeed," said Faith in an old-fashioned way, "and I never knew it would go so fast. Granny, will you add up for me and tell me how much I have left?" When bedtime came, Aunt Alice was able to tell her. And Faith was horrified to find that she had only about 40 pounds left. She looked so troubled that Granny came to her. "What is it, darling?" "Oh, Granny, I wanted to give something out of it to God. I thought you would tell me how. But I think many of your presents to the poor old people in the village are offerings to God, dear. But I thought Mr. Webster would like to have some." "To give away to the poor, do you mean? Well, you can talk it over with him, but don't spend it all this Christmas. I advise you to keep some in the bank and take it out when you really need it." "Yes," assented Faith, "and I won't think about spending it anymore, but just enjoy myself." When Christmas Eve came, the little girls were up early. They took the presents round to the villagers in the morning, and had great fun packing all the cakes into Granny's carriage.